begin by saying a wonderful time to be alive. What an extraordinary epoch we live in. Never has creativity, cooperation been more essential globally than now. Seldom have so many people had the opportunity and responsibility that we all do now to reconsider and perhaps replace the most fundamental values and institutions that have dominated the world all of our lives. While some people, after great wars and revolutions, have had a chance for profound reinvention, we live in an unprecedented global cleft in time. All of the modern institutions everywhere in the world suddenly broke down, were shut down, ceased operating as they had, or stretched to the breaking point, and yet life somehow just kept on going. In spite of unprecedentedly high levels of official unemployment, terror, chaos, catastrophe, widespread killing did not erupt as we had been warned it would. Money magically flowed as it had never flowed before. Food appeared and was eaten. Goods were produced and were acquired. Non-essential people did not work, but the economy just chugged along. Some, mostly poor and marginal people, were declared to be essential and literally worked themselves to death. Sure, there was violence, but it was the ordinary kind. Many people caught, some suffered, but only a tolerably few died the suffocating death of COVID-19. Bruno Marcus says that rather than living in a period of chaos and terror that everyone predicted, we're instead living in a great pause. Time has stood still while we impatiently try to release the pause button and get the old global political economy rolling again. Maybe so. Maybe we should just release the pause button and resume business as usual, if we can. But wasn't it Winston Churchill who first said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste"? I humbly ask you to adopt that attitude. Time has both stopped and vastly accelerated, making possible things that were thought to be impossible. Please use this cleft in time to envision and create better institutions, rather than just blindly trying to restart the old ones. It's not as though the old global political economy was flawless. While following World War II, millions of people were pulled out of poverty, their poverty had been caused by imperialism and racism. Billions now are in new forms of poverty, while a tiny handful of people unfairly control almost all of the world's wealth. Or tragically, the economic system is inherently destructive of the natural environment upon which it is dependent and of traditional cultures. The cleft in time gives us space cooperatively to imagine and create new economic systems that are fair, efficient, and evolvable. In many ways, more seriously, all forms of governance in the world, even those of new nations, are based on cosmologies and technologies 300 years old. No contemporary institution is as obsolete as are all modern governments. Not a single one is democratic in any honest definition of that term. Some governments function better than others, or at least still have the trust of most of the people most of the time, but others have no trust of most of the people any of the time. The cleft in time also gives us space to imagine and create new forms of governance based on cutting-edge cosmologies and cutting-edge technologies. Both of these vital institutions, governance and the economy, currently ignore one of the most fundamental and inconvenient truths about the planet: that humans, during our brief time on Earth, have transformed the planet from the serene Holocene epoch into which and for which humans evolved into our chaotic Anthropocene epoch. That is to say, humans changed the planet from a self-governing wilderness into a fragile garden requiring diligent human management, and now into a complex global iron lung, demanding complete and continuous human attention and imagination. And then, into this environment came the mother of all pandemics, for which Korea was somewhat better prepared, while America could have been but was not. At this point in the unfolding process, it is absolutely impossible to say anything with confidence about the outcome of the pandemic and the responses made to it. If the pandemic were a baseball game, we might be in the third or fourth inning. And yet many people are acting as though the game is over, but it may barely have begun. Though deaths have been few so far, the long-run impact of COVID-19 on mental and physical health is unknown. It could be benign or catastrophic. Also, the abrupt end to face-to-face education and its replacement without preparation by teleeducation could additionally cripple a generation forever. As I've tried to make clear, the futures of the world depend on much more than just the course of the virus. While the virus may have put the economy on pause, challenges from climate change, economic inequality, governance obsolescence, cultural resurgence, anti-science, and anti-global movements, and more have continued. No one can predict the future. We can and should forecast and explore many alternative futures. We can and should envision, design, and test preferred futures, continuously scanning and revising our visions on the basis of new information and new people. There are 4 generic alternative images of the future that can and should be considered. They are labeled grow, collapse, discipline, transform. Each of the 4 comes in many, many, many variations, but one possible version of the 4 might be like this in essence. Future 1, pause, revive, resume. Trump, Bolsonaro, and others were right. Vaccines are created that provide lifetime immunity. The virus fades. The countless gruesome deaths are tolerable. It was serious, but no more so than annual flu or automobile deaths. Getting the economy growing again is what matters. Vast numbers of people are angry about the loss of freedom, mobility, jobs, income from policies dictated by people who think they're smarter and better than everyone else. In November 2020, Trump wins all states but one, while Moon becomes even more popular. Yes, there's violent conflict in the US and elsewhere as people struggle to repair and rebuild a severely damaged economy within a deeply divided polity. But being proactive, patient, and diligent, Korea quickly revised the old order, but with vastly more telework, automation, efficiency, and unemployment. While sales of insurance policies soared for the next pandemic, neither country is prepared for a more powerful and lasting tsunami. Future 2, rescue, repair, reclaim. Too many leaders, even in Korea, giving in to virus fatigue, declared the pandemic over and opened up their countries too soon. Second, third, and continuing waves of the virus sweep repeatedly over the planet like the common cold, but vastly more deadly. There is no immunity, herd, or individual to the virus, which mutates incessantly. There is no vaccine that can end it like measles or polio. Instead, there's an increasing search for new vaccines every year without knowing what the virus itself will be like until it reappears. There's a period of violence almost everywhere as human and planetary systems fail. Populations decline, entire communities, along with their ruling families, dead or decimated. The inexorable onslaught of climate change helps sweep away old structures, institutions, and practices. New local ways of cooperating that evolved during the pandemic spread and mature. A new global economy cannot emerge, and no one wants one. Instead, each nation, each local community is self-sufficient but cooperative. The result is an array of peaceful, content communities, not a Hobbesian war of all against all. When humans can live as they were evolved to live, they naturally create affluent and peaceful tribes, typical of hunting and gathering societies that coexisted happily for tens of thousands of years. Future 3, reject, reverse, reset. With the failure of populist, anti-science, nation-based systems, scientists and other experts created a global governance network. Global elites focused human behavior neither on nations nor on the endless material production and consumption, but on global adaptation to climate change and the other perilous features of the Anthropocene epoch. Human lives are now based on environmental values and institutions that inspire willing conformity and obedience. As Walter Truett Anderson said, the human task now is to govern evolution. Future 4, rejoice, reimagine, and proceed. What about the robots? Where are the robots and artificial intelligence in all this? Artificial intelligence and robotics are maturing just in time to save us from ourselves. AI and robots have already taken over most of the economy, so let them do all the work. They are indispensable for ending the pandemic and establishing platforms for the next step in human evolution, perhaps a dream society. A society where humans focus on producing neither material products nor information, but aesthetically exciting dreams. A world of identity, abundance, creativity, and full unemployment. I've sketched 4 images of alternative futures that might result from our extraordinary cleft in time. It is your duty to devise policies that enable Koreans and all humans to thrive in whatever turns out to be the actual future. Your policies must be robust against all futures. The stakes are too high, the challenges too great. The opportunities for creating a Korea that is better for everyone are vast and obtainable. I conclude with these specific challenges. Korea is currently enjoying great popularity worldwide, and not just the Korean cultural wave. People everywhere are looking to Korea for inspiring visions and guidance in many spheres of life. So don't miss this rare opportunity for Korea. Korea should see itself as and become a leading nation in the world. It can no longer be a mere follower. It cannot rely on other nations to show the way that Korea will simply follow and improve upon. There is no leading nation to follow. There are no proven steps to trod. The processes that brought Korea to its current state of relative economic prosperity and political power will no longer suffice in its futures. Korea should cooperate with other nations and people in creating new processes fit for the rest of the 21st century. America, after the cleft in time, will not be the same as the US before. Korea should create many new avenues for global cooperation, as you're doing here today, but with expanded guidance from Africa especially, as well as South Asia, the Middle East, and South America. I know you can do it. But will you? Thank you very much.